Hey Guardians, it's Dexum, and as a request from someone on the forums, here is Star-Lord's Omega Trial Guide. Star-Lord is actually one of the easier characters to pass any of these trials with, if you have the right build, that is. My build uses 3 ammo loader abilities, and it relies heavily on Elemental Blast, which is actually exactly like my Cosmic Trial build. I really don't bother with any grenades, and in the trials you really can't sit there and channel his abilities, even though it does do a lot of good damage. For the 3 ammo loader powers I've chosen, I use water, air, and fire. For my main auto attack, I'm using Elemental Barrage, and I'm using the Incendiary Cluster Bomb and Orbital Strike. And of course, lastly, I have his dash slotted on his bar, which is a must-have. His talents are pretty straightforward, and with this build, you don't really have to have a high energy pool because you're going to be switching ammo loader powers often. And because of that, the first talent I chose is Fresh Reload. With that and Uncanny Marksmanship, which is the second talent, I'm really shooting for a high critical strike chance. Elemental Intensity increases the Elemental Blast bonus effects. Orbital Bombardment will increase your orbital strike by 1 and reduce its cooldown, which really comes in handy. And lastly, I chose Autopilot so that you get the extra attack from Strafing Run, which actually ends up proccing a lot more than you'd think. For full synergies, I kind of went a little all over the place because he has ice damage and fire damage, range damage and gun damage, and damage over time. So depending on what characters you have max level, there are a lot of options here that should work just fine. I wouldn't be too concerned with your synergies. For the Infinity Points, obviously you need 50 in the Soul Gem, because the extra medkit is a must-have for most trials, and especially in the Omega trial. Next, I put the rest into the Time Gem with Temporal Loophole, and the reason for that is because it increases your attack speed and your movement speed, which is actually really helpful for channel characters. And even though we're not channeling that much with Star-Lord, when you do have some extra time to channel, it'll get out as many hits as possible in that time. And of course, the extra percentage to move speed is really helpful to dodge attacks. For my gear, I chose mostly critical hit rating and brutal strike rating gear. I don't have a maxed out legendary. In fact, I'm using the ultimate nullifier, and I think it's only at level 1 right now. With the right gear, you really don't need a legendary at all. The most important piece of gear is your catalyst, and you'll want something that grants 3 seconds of invisibility. I didn't really use any special medallion, I just used something that had critical hit rating on it. But if you have the time and you're going to go ahead and gear Star-Lord anyway, I would recommend going either Pyro or Gorgon, and if you're having a hard time passing it, try Gorgon first. That way, anytime you focus the boss with Orbital Strike, it'll turn him to stone, and give you some extra time to do some damage. It's also a pretty helpful crowd control. Artifacts in general can be pretty much anything. I just happen to have a Hyde's Cosmically Enhanced formula, so I threw that on there, and it kinda helped me out because it gave me some extra defense, but you can pretty much use anything, as long as it does some decent damage or increases your brutal and critical strike ratings. Or, if you want some extra defense, you can use something that gives you high defense. As long as you have enough damage output through your gear, you should be fine. As far as the strategy goes, there's really no rotation that you have to focus on. Star-Lord is an amazing hit and run type of character. Switch to a loader power, throw out an Elemental Blast, and keep moving. Whenever Orbital Strike is up, throw that down, and as long as you're geared for heavy criticals and brutals, you're going to drop people really quickly. Plus the water loader power is really good for crowd control. And there you have it, that's the Omega Trial Guide for Star-Lord. If you guys have any questions, or you want to see another build for another character, feel free to leave it in the comments, and I'll get to work on it for you. Good luck on the trial, guys, and I'll see you in game.